that we hear in here is that nobody cares. If I died yesterday, I'd still be in my apartment, and it would just stink up the floor before anybody would even notice that I'm gone, right? And that, so now we're trying to implement the fact that, we don't see somebody for like, a couple of days. We go over and we knock on their door and we ask them if they're okay.
Buddy system, buddy system.
We have had quite a few deaths in here where the bodies laid in the apartments for over a month. People were already starting to notice the smell a week after. So now we're implementing the fact that if you start noticing a smell, right, go to the super and explain it to the super. We've had 5 deaths like that. Okay?
It's a health hazard.
And it's a health hazard. And the fact that they died alone with nobody that cared. No families called. Nobody's come to see if they were okay. And that is an issue.
I'm Dan King.
I'm Willie Little.
Oh, really?
Hi,
Of course,
nice
we
to meet
spoke
you.
on the phone. And you're
David.
David. Nice to meet you. Disability in our society is much more prevalent than we realize. Like, our job is to create a voice for people with disabilities. And one way to help everybody have a voice is making sure everybody's well fed, So we get free food, and we love to distribute it to communities like this one, anybody who's in need, and we just think so much of it needs to be done.
Yes, I agree. A lot of us have disabilities in this building. We also have a lot of mental health issues, and we're learning how to cope with each other because we all have to live in the same area, and that in itself is difficult at times. They actually feel like they do count, and then they can start. I noticed that a lot of the people will make a big, huge pot of soup and that, and then they'll start, getting containers, putting it in containers and bringing it to other people who can't get out to do that or get up and do stuff like that. So we are trying to spread it with everyone in the building, and even the elderly that don't like to come out of their apartments, that are afraid, and that we bring it to them. We bring them food as well. Right, and we try to make it so that it's a community, and that we work together, right, and help each other. And the food is a really big thing that helps, and it also makes people feel like somebody cares.
That's right.
That somebody cares, and it's always good to have somebody who cares, to feel that you matter, right?
That's right. That's right.
That you actually matter to be on this earth.
That's right.
And that other people outside of this area care, and they care enough to want to bring us the food and help us, right?
That's right.
This guy.
I've been here for 6 years. It is slowly improving, and when you bring us the food, it makes them feel like they count.
So, I think I'm trying to reach my email. I thought I would mail you a letter. What I want to do is, I really want the other way for people to care, is to listen to us, to listen to our voices. Listen to what are our problems in our everyday life. What matters, what can they change to make our lives better?
Time you pay your bills, your rent, and everything else, is not a lot left. So all this extra food that you drop off cuts our bills down. We don't have to take money that we don't have to go out and buy food from the store. Because it's so expensive in the stores now too.
Yeah, and prices have gone up
So-
too.
Yes.
And prices have gone up a lot.
Yeah, so it makes a big difference with the food being dropped off like this.
Yeah, lots of bread. Good enough, guys. Oh. Hey. Ja, het is there.
I think there's many things that can be done that don't cost a lot of money, and yet will make our lives better. And it's starting obviously with stopping the wasting of food.
The wasting food, yeah, I agree with that, right? We're on welfare, and it's only enough to pay for our, toiletries, and that some of us don't even get toiletries because we can't afford, it's either, do we eat this month, or do we have toiletries? I mean, so the food that you bring actually really helps to alleviate that worry that we have, right? Because I know I worry about stuff like that.
Bring it like once a month, would make a big, like in the middle of the month, like the second week type of thing. Because that's when the checks start getting low. So that food that you would bring, the fresh vegetables and everything else, and for people with the kids, that makes a big difference. Because a lot of the kids nowadays that are in housing and stuff, they don't get as much as they should.
Let this guy.
Because, kids are growing kids and they need to eat. And then, of course, they look to the parents. And then the parents feel ashamed because, they can't provide, enough.
That's right.
And that,
That's right, and the other problem too is children going to school.
And they're
learning.
hungry.
The teachers know when children can't
Can't.
learn because they're
hungry.
They're hungry, they haven't had a breakfast, they
Yeah.
haven't had a good breakfast.
they haven't had a good meal.
Yeah.
And they know.
That's right, and teachers
then-
tell them. And
yeah.
you know what teachers have been doing? Teachers have been putting in their own
Own
money
money
to feed the kids.
try and feed their
Wow.
kids. Eliminate the waste of food when we could be eating it and sharing it with the people who actually need it.
And there's
Right.
truckloads,
And
truckloads of
there's
it.
truckloads of it that get wasted.
Yeah.
My daughter works in a farmer's market, and at the end of the session, she said, you should see how much they throw away. They just throw it away because it's not feasible
That's right.
to keep it,
That's right,
right? And we're talking about fresh vegetables, which, is really good for your diet,
that's right.
right?
That's right, and some of it may be marked,
And-
but we don't mind.
No.
If it's marked,
If
I'll-
it's marked,
I'll
or
just
there's
cut-
a
I'll just
little
cut-
nick
I'll
off of
just
it,
cut off
or
and
yeah,
I'll-
if there's a little
Do
nick
you-
off
do
of
you
it,
mind?
we can implement a law stating and explaining to the growers or the stores and the grocery stores that if there is food that's already slightly, that you think should be thrown away, that could be donated or offered to groups that will come and bring it to the people that need it, it should be something that is implemented, right? It must be done rather than throwing it in the garbage and not helping people that need it, right? And feeding the poor, right? And helping to feed, not just the poor, but anybody that needs food, anyone, right? Instead of wasting it, right?
We have to go politically.
Yes, we
Let me-
have to
let
go
me give you-
politically.
Let me give you an example. Let me tell you about a law that you probably don't know about, okay? I was getting food and loading it up, and I saw there was several big pallet loads of food that was going to the garbage, and they have a special place where they
Where
dump
they
all the
take- where they
garbage.
take all that.
And I said, we could use that, we could use that, we could use that. And I was warned that I was in violation of the policy, that if I wanted that food, I had to go back to the manager and ask the manager if I could have that food. Now, I've talked to many managers and they've been very helpful, okay? But maybe some managers are just too busy to say, oh, you can have this, or I need the space in my warehouse, I gotta get it out now and throw it in the garbage right away. And so what happened was, I was prohibited from taking food that was heading for the garbage because I hadn't done the proper procedure.
procedure.
I would like to see a law so that we get first picks. If something's going to the
I agree with
garbage
that.
and there's no reason to
No
believe it's
reason.
unsafe,
Right.
it's not like we don't do meat,
No,
Right.
but if it's not unsafe and that people can eat it, then there should be a new policy put in where we can take that food and
That's right.
distribute it We have a lot of people that want to be able to distribute the food to the people.
That's right.
Give us some, at least leadway to be able to get the food to, give it to the people. I haven't heard of any political parties that giving us more of a policy to be able to not throw food away. Yet that the food can be brought to us and can be shared with the people who need the food instead of it being thrown away in the garbage, right? And I haven't heard of any policies or any parties whatsoever speaking about any of that. And, you know, they talk about trying to help us and alleviate the taxes and all that stuff, but they're not talking about helping feed the people, right? And helping to cut our expenses and not, and our worries about our children, about when are they gonna have their next meal, right? And I haven't heard any of that from any politician.
But-
And now I'm hearing it now, and now I want to give my voice. I want to let the politicians know that we need you guys to help us be able to implement a better, working order for it. So that it will help us and help the volunteers to be able to bring the food to the people that need it. And this is one of the ways that we can do that. And we can actually be helping the people instead of hearing all the bad negative things about, oh, the politicians only worry about their higher income people and stuff like that. And the fact that we take the taxes because we're not working and we're disabled and they're paying for us, so we should just be happy with what we get from them. And you've got food that's sitting right there that, because a manager says, doesn't have the time to tell us that we can take it, you would rather take that food and throw it in the garbage, right? Instead of helping us eat it and feed us and keeping us from being hungry, right? And keeping our children from being hungry. So we need policies to help us and new laws to be able to get these, people to start thinking about helping us who are the people that are trying to give it to the people that need it, right? So we need our politicians to help us and start implementing and thinking about stuff like that, right? Because that's important.
And this isn't just about us. One of the stories that we feel is very important that we tell people is, if you think about it, a disability can happen to anyone.
Well,
At any time.
Well, if we put me into place, I was a workaholic. I worked from the day I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a disability. I have MS now. And you know what? I can't do this kind of stuff that I used to do. And I, at times, am ashamed that I have to rely on my government to help me, right? And I do what I can, but my disability is only gonna get worse and worse. And I worry about, what am I gonna do next?
Yeah.
When it gets to a point where I can't walk anymore, I can't talk anymore, what do I do then, right? Then I start thinking about, committing suicide, And a lot of us do think of that, right? A lot of us do think of that. And because we don't think any of our politicians really care about us. In fact, that they're happy if we are gone because then they don't have to put any money towards us. Right.
Just
It's
gas.
free,
Just
it's
gas.
free. It's just,
gas.
it's just costing our time. It's not even costing our time because we want to give our time to be able to do this, to be able to bring this to everyone, right? And because it's going to go in the garbage, right? And this is something that's free. That's not going to cost the government any money.
Everybody needs more income, especially if they're on disabilities. They should be given more job opportunities to improve their income. So there's not supposed to be a need for food banks, especially in Canada. And Canada is a prosperous country, and there should be nobody on the streets. There should be nobody starving. Elderly, people with disabilities, children. There's not a reason on this world for people to be starving. Fresh vegetables, fruit, because you need that to survive. You just can't live on bread, cereal, canned goods. It's not, if the politicians walked a mile in our shoes, they'd probably change it in a heartbeat. There's only a limited amount of budget at levels of government, but if you take something for yourself, you're taking away from somebody else that might need it too. So they have to increase the funding for charitable organizations. They also need to help find more volunteers. Volunteers, they should get a little something for themselves. And seniors, there's not much options with them. They got one check and there's nobody in any level of government to help them out. That's one.
People here have disabilities in this building, or?
Well, some of it is mental health, others are physical. They have a hard time getting around. And there's not enough resources to help these people or agencies.
I think you raised a really good point there about mobility devices for seniors. That seniors are basically, whatever the situation is, they're having trouble getting funding for their mobility
Right,
devices.
yeah.
They can't afford to pay for it themselves, and there doesn't seem to be some program out there that's helping these people get around, to
So-
help them be more independent.
So then it affects their mental health and their
Yeah.
physical. But everybody needs fresh fruit and vegetables. It's part of your life.
That's right.
You need it to keep healthy. You don't, you get sick, and then bad things happen. You become a burden on the healthcare system, I think. Because you're spending
that's-
more time in the hospital, man, they could have saved money, made sure everybody has fresh fruits and vegetables, which will keep them healthy, it'll keep them out of the hospitals. So you don't have to increase the funding for the hospitals, the money should be going to implement food programs.
You're saving
It
money
does.
on emergency services. It's
Right.
emergency services, that's what costs the money.
Right. Other people, they supply bread, food banks, they're always hard up for donations, because you don't get what you used to get. You get basic, it's probably enough to last a day or two. And then they're only open once a week, and if anything's donated to them, especially if it's perishable, by the time it comes for them to hand out the donations, most of that stuff is already rotten. It's no good, even edible.
Yeah.
So they have to be able to implement programs where they get rid of it, or not get rid of it, that's a wrong
Move it to people who
word.
need it
At that time, not wait a week or.
as quickly as
Right,
possible.
because they don't have the refrigeration, they don't have this, they don't have the storage space to keep this stuff.
Yeah.
So it goes bad, and then the food banks have to throw it out, so they have to come up with better programs. The food banks do great stuff, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but they need more.
But they need more donations, and they also have to improve their distribution to the people that actually need it. More times a week, but then they have a hard time finding the volunteers. That's the other hard part. So they should be open at least once or twice a week.
We take away a lot of the burden from a food bank.
Right.
Food banks will still have a role, but the idea is that we can reduce the burden on them, you know?
Right.
And that means there's more for other people.
Yeah, and the stuff you provide is fresher. It's right off the.
Direct,
Yep,
direct.
yep, no waiting. No, and they're appreciative of what your organization has done for the building. You see, with all the people coming down, they take bags and bags of food, and they're happy and they're content.